It's okay, it takes time. I know.
Welcome back to Strong, everybody. I'm so excited to bring another amazing guest to our episode this evening. Today, we're meeting with Natalia, who is zooming in from Dubai. Welcome to Strong, Natalia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so exciting having you. It's been a while since we've last met, a few years actually. And when I came across your profile on Instagram, I was so inspired. I mean, I remember meeting you years ago, being inspired by who you were, the presence you were working around well-being and really talking about well-being and the youth before anybody else in this region was. And I was always very inspired with you, but in looking at your social channel, I was like, how does an inspiring woman become even more inspiring? And why have I not connected with her in these past few years? So I'm so excited to have you here. And I'm so excited that our audience can learn from your life story, because that's what this is all about. It's about taking our experiences and sharing them by telling them, so that we can be helping not only the youth, but also people watching at any age group. I know why I wanted to interview you. What made you want to tell your story?
Well, as you said, we met a while ago in different contexts and in different areas of our lives. Natalia back then was different than Natalia today, and Natalia will keep changing. It's not that we are born somebody, and this is what life is all about: coming here, playing the game, enjoying the play, and acquiring different roles. And we need to understand that us women, we can carry so many roles, and each role will give us so much more into who we are, until the journey becomes a search of really who we are. And I've been on that journey and playing so many different roles. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad that I've finally came to meet who I am. And this is who I am. And today I'm here as Natalia, the, the many versions of me. And each story in our lives creates a certain version of ourselves, which is a tool for us to get closer to ourselves. And this has been my message from the beginning. As you said, I started promoting well-being and wellness for teenagers because I strongly believe that if we can plant that seed very early in their lives, they can save so much suffering along the way. And we know which type of suffering we're talking about.
I know. I feel like I listened to you, and I remember meeting you the first time and thinking, when God is handing out challenge, how does he choose who to give it to? Because you made your overcoming your challenge look so seamless. You made it look so easy. And I think that sometimes strong people, or what we think are strong people, they make their challenges, they almost make them sound like romantic stories when they retell the story. And I believe that sometimes young people listen to these stories and they're like, happy ever after, happy ever, there's always a happy ending. But it's when you're living the story, that's where the truth comes in. It's when we're telling the story. We never really want to scare young people from our challenges, but the learning is in the journey. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to take you back on a few of the journeys that you've come through this far in your life.
Okay.
Let's start with that first journey, being a mom. You have 3 teenage daughters. You are incredibly inspiring. You are beautiful. You are cultured. You are, globally diversified. How do you raise teenage daughters so that they can prepare themselves for life without being really hard on themselves, because their role model almost looks perfect or can come across as almost perfect.
No, I'm nothing close to perfect. I'm just a regular woman, and this is my message to them. How I raise them, I accompany them. I am by their side. I lead the way sometimes, but I love to make them feel that they're leading the way as well. I listen, I engage, I debate, we scream at each other, we shout at each other, we just try to prove our points. And when everything is okay, sometimes you don't know how your kids are, like, will they be prepared to face this? Will they be ready for life? But then when they are put into certain circumstances where they are tested, oh my God, I've been so amazingly proud of who they stand for, who they are, their personalities, their characters. Each one of them has a very strong message in my life. The older one is a Capricorn like me. So we complement each other. We're very structured, very organized. The second one, we have a lot of confrontation, but when I'm outside observing those confrontations, she makes me so proud. Like, she knows what she wants and she will go for it. And then the third one, she is here in my life to just remind me of the little girl inside me, the playfulness, the innocence, the wisdom. She's got a lot of wisdom, and she reminds me of that. So understanding what each of their message is to you, because they come into our lives. We don't possess them. They're not ours. And if you look at that from the mindfulness perspective that I always like parents to look at their kids from, it becomes a relationship of respect, of trust. I emphasize endlessly trust. Like, you trust me, I trust you, you can conquer the world. And my famous phrase that I tell them is, if there's anything that you want to do that you are not proud of standing in front of me telling me about it, just don't do it. That's it. That's my slogan. So then they take the choices, because I can't take the choices for them.
And you're right, we can't. We can only hope that they're prepared. So I'm listening to you talk about motherhood. I'm listening to you tell us the story of 3 teenage daughters. And I'm thinking, how do you do that on a daily basis? Because I know that motherhood is challenging anyway. Every child has their own personality. We also have our own personality. And, sometimes teenagers, especially, and their parents, they come from the right place, the right intention of love and wanting to be heard. But sometimes the channels get disturbed and they can't really communicate. So I liked how you described looking at it from the outside and looking in at the issue or the situation and being extremely proud. You seem to be able to do that seamlessly. How do you learn to do that? Was it by coincidence? Did you get formal training? How does somebody do that?
Well, I got trained in mindfulness, and I searched to know more about mindfulness. But then I discovered that I was living a mindful life without knowing and without being trained and without having the credentials for it. And a big message for me, maybe for your audience, we strive so much to get a title, a career, a definition, something that labels us. But the biggest lessons in life, we learn it and we never get a diploma for it or certificate for it. So in my bio, I write, I'm a cancer graduate. I didn't choose to go and learn how to survive after cancer. And there is no centers in the world that can give me a certification and say, oh, we're so proud of you, you just graduated from your cancer experience. So cancer taught me so much, but even before that, especially in motherhood, um, part of my story is that I wanted to be the perfect mom. It's been in me, in my drive. I wanted to be the best version that I could be of being a mother. And it's a strong message for me also that even women with careers and amazing opportunities, and sometimes I understand that there is a must that they have to go to work every day. But let's not forget that our prime role has always been being a mother. And the mother, what the mother gives, nobody can replace that, not even the father. Um, and if you have the chance to give that to your kids, that's the biggest blessing. So it's not that you learn, but it's like, you know, when somebody is pregnant and sometimes they're scared that they don't know what to do, but then all of a sudden you just get all this knowledge and you know how to do things. And I've been learning through the process. Psychology is one of my things that I've learned just by practicing. And as you said, each one a different perspective, a different tone, a different approach. You can't deal with the three of them in the same way. So you need to juggle.
I like the flow of how you brought that together. It's I almost imagine it to be like an inner calling, an inner wisdom of just kind of finding your way through whatever's in front of you. Let's talk about cancer. You just talked about, graduating from successfully overcoming cancer. And that's when I first met you. When you survived cancer that first time. And in your wellness talks, in your mindfulness talks, you were talking about your experience. You were talking about that journey. And I remember you mentioning that you were not just a survivor, but you were also a believer in surviving and making the most of every experience that you could have. Being a cancer survivor twice, I mean, I can't even begin to understand what that feels like. And I won't even pretend to understand what that feels like. And I think sometimes the biggest mistake that we can make when we listen to somebody's story is we try to relate to somebody's challenge. And I think it's important that we can be honest when we can't relate, we can't understand. And it's hard to walk in somebody's shoes until we've actually really walked in somebody's shoes. So for those of us listening that have never experienced cancer and the idea of becoming resilient through that challenge, what was it like? And what is life like today when you think back to what you've just overcome?
Okay, cancer knocked the door first for the first time 6 years ago, and I can't believe it was 6 years ago because it's something that you have to live with on a daily basis. Like it's not something that you've dealt with and that's it. You get reminded of it in your checkups every 6 months. You get reminded with it in your, I don't know, a lot of things that happen. I went through it. I did it. But then afterwards, I started reflecting on how I did that journey. And there's a few things that I regret doing. And there's a few things that I regret I didn't do. The things that I regret I didn't do was that I was always showing the world that nothing can break me, that this will not get to me, that this cannot stop me from keep going. And in that, I wasn't authentic 100%. Like I was putting the face, I was putting the show. I didn't want my daughters to get affected from it too much. Um, I was living it day by day. Every diagnosis I was told, I challenged a few. I didn't accept to do chemotherapy at the beginning because I had an internal voice inside of me that I started to listen for the first time not to do it. It took me on another journey of alternative medicine, which I had to go back to medicine because that didn't work. So I ended up doing alternative medicine, homeopathy, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all tick the boxes. Cancer has a funny thing to it. I don't talk about the experience itself too much, but today I will. You get your chemo, and that night I couldn't fall asleep until 5 o'clock in the morning because you'll get a fake rush of energy in your body that you think you can go and run a marathon. So you wake up in the morning, you can't move because you are depleted of energy whatsoever. And it was cycle after cycle. You would finish one treatment and you will have to start with the other. The thing that broke me the most for cancer was losing my hair. And I think women, we are so defined by our appearance and our femininity, this thing that I'm speaking about now, because I got in touch from a different perspective. And it's an energy that we have, but we give too much to our appearance, to our looks, to our makeup. And one day when I woke up and I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. And I'm like, who is she? So that broke me emotionally. And then after every achievement on the journey, you start changing because you start discovering a strength inside you that you never knew you had. And then when you look back and you said, I was threatened with my life being taken away, what else can scare me now? So that has been stirring this inner strength in me. But then after 4 years, I got a relapse, which made me realize, because the first time I started digging my past and I started digging my experiences and my emotions and all this luggage that I was carrying, it became too heavy to carry. So I started taking out the bag and releasing, but then it wasn't enough. So I got another relapse and I kept on searching and digging, and which is, I think cancer is, for me, was like a blessing for me to just really focus on my healing. Like I needed to heal. And I always say with cancer, you can get cured from cancer. It's the easiest way you can do it. Just take the pills, go to your tests, and keep going. But people who get cancer, is like they got an extra chance to wake up earlier. And the need to focus on your healing is the real thing that needs to happen. Addressing those emotions. Why is it in your life? What is it that you've been doing not the right way? What is it that needs to change? What kind of relationship? How can you upgrade yourself? And that's why it's been an amazing journey so far.
I'm getting emotional listening to you. And I know that anyone watching this who hasn't lived the story will be listening and just listening to you intently in almost a heroic way. And anyone who would have walked in your shoes will be listening to you and remembering their journey, either the past or maybe currently going through it. And I mean this with the most respect. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, anyone that I've known, and myself included, that retells a challenge that they face that somebody else will listen to and think that has to be the hardest thing you could ever go through. And everyone will have an example of someone in their life that has overcome something, either a physical challenge or something non-physical. And they'll listen, and we almost sometimes say, as you were, is it was a blessing and I'm so grateful that it happened. But for myself in listening, it kind of angers me to think, well, why does one person have to experience so much challenge? Why is it that one person has to self-reflect? And I'm hearing what you're saying about going within and unloading and listening to what you need and releasing. But I think there's people walking around on the planet that never have to go through such a challenge, and they also have baggage. How do you, how do you, I mean, you have three daughters, you're a mom, you're living, you're a woman, you're feeling, you are just like everybody else, Natalia. How do you sit down with yourself and come to a place where you could find gratitude in something as challenging and scary as going through cancer twice?
Uh, Honestly, I think cancer is one of the things that has happened in my life. And why did I get it? I've done my work internally, and it makes absolute sense for me to get it based on my experiences, based on my life. Um, why one people get it and the others not? Uh, I'm a very spiritual person, and I I deal a lot with energy work, with healing. Part of my healing journey has been based a lot on energy work. And in one of the readings that I did, why do people get these kind of diseases? Or you know how much we hear like, oh, she was such a nice person. How can she even die from this? And it's for the same purpose that you say, because me coming back from the dead, if you want to say, and sharing with people this story and people connecting with this gratitude that I have within, that's the story. And that's why I chose to have it. And that's why I'm using my voice to tell the story. Some other ladies, they don't want to talk about it for the rest of their lives. They just grow up their hair again. They go back into society and they just say, you know what, that's a chapter in my life that happened and I don't want to know anything about it anymore. This is not me. But for me, I give the analogy of cancer. I simplify it this way. Imagine your cancer, God forbid, but imagine whoever got it, that this cancer was like your little baby, your child. I want to start changing the language about saying, let's fight against cancer, let's kill cancer. Cancer sucks, cancer is so bad. Cancer is a part of us. Cancer was part of my body, and I attended to it as if it was a baby. And if the baby cries, you can't come and slap him and kill the baby. No, you take the baby and you attend to it. And then you start checking what's wrong with this baby? Why is it crying? It's a cry out. Is it, if it was a baby, you check the bottle, you check if he burps, you check the nappy, you keep searching until your baby settles. And cancer has to be the same. It has to be attended to, not killed and punished. You kill it, you kill part of yourself. It goes with it. So I attended to that and I kept on rocking it and checking what's wrong with it until it settled. And this is the message. The message is that we have all the answers within. It's just that we need to give ourselves the chance to just sit, connect, and understand. Like I'm known, my best friend tells me, oh my God, if something happened, if I cross, we're having this interview today, right? For me, I met you years ago. I had no clue what you would be of your life. I had no clue. I cherished that connection all the time. And everywhere I see you, I admire what you're doing. We didn't reach out, it's fine. It's okay because each one of us had a different path. But then look, we're here back again together and we're sharing a strong message. And this is it. Like this is the path of life. And this is being aware and living every single moment and cherishing everything. And me being able to say that life is amazing after cancer is the message.
Incredible. Natalia, let's talk about divorce. You are the child of divorce. You described it as a messy divorce, a very messy divorce. And you are also recently divorced. What was that like for you going through divorce as a child? And how was it different to when you were in the position of divorcing in your marriage?
Well, this is the first time somebody asks me about that stage on my life, which now, just now, I'm starting to come to terms with it. And I was 6 years old when my parents got divorced. Messy in a sense that I'm not going to evaluate my parents' choices and decisions that they've made because I am, that was a lot part of my healing that I had to do. I don't blame my parents for the decisions they've made. They've made those decisions in their pathways, in their life journeys, according to what they knew best in that position. What happened after that, it became my life, the experiences that I had to live with. And because I'm a very spiritual person and I come to understand that each one's roles in my life has given me so much, and even not by not giving me, they've given me as well. I don't know if it makes sense, but I stayed with my father after divorce, and my father was an amazing man. He dealt with a lot of situations in the best way he knew possible. And unfortunately, some of his decisions were hard on me. But at the same time, he gave me a life of blessings and experiences and everything that I possibly could wish for. And for him, I was the eldest and I was the only daughter. And he raised me always as equal to my brothers. And he used to say, I had a special connection with him actually. I lost him in 2017. And it was harder than being through cancer, actually, losing him. Like I adapted after that divorce. I was away from my biological mother for 33 years. I had an amazing stepmother that everybody knows as my mother. And we lived, I had a good life, you know, but something was missing. And I never attended to it. I never had the courage actually to step up and try to do something about the situation because, as you know, like sometimes it's easier to keep going. It's safer to stay in a situation where it feels safe because change represents a big threat sometimes. So recently, I've reestablished contact with my mother. I think she's part of my healing now. I'm part of hers. I worked a lot on forgiving them for the experience I got out of it. And I think looking from the perspective of the parent now, it makes sense that I went through that, so I don't give the same to my daughters, and I don't allow them to live the same experience. So that's what life is all about. Experiences that might be very harsh, but they will be preparing you for you to change the story. And that's why it's all about choices that we make. Treating my partner with all the respect, the love, and the gratitude, even though that we are not together anymore, changes the whole thing. When the intention is based out of love and just like wishing the best for everybody around you, changes the tone, changes the relationship, changes the treatment, everything changes.
In a recent interview I had with a guest named Karali, we talked about divorce, and we talked about the assumptions and the standards that we put on ourselves as single mothers in raising children and co-parenting. What would you say is the greatest challenge in being a single mom today, especially here in the region, and also in ensuring that you don't lose a part of yourself through that journey of raising children with a partner, but also as a single mother?
I can't put myself in the same category of a lot of women. It will not be fair. My circumstances are not the same to a lot of women. My ex-partner is an amazing man, and he cherishes a lot of what we had. He respects his daughters in a way, and he respects me in a way that unfortunately a lot of men don't do. So I don't think I'm in a position enough to say that I have a lot of challenges. I have a support system from my family as well. I'm still trying to find out my goal and my how do I sustain myself by myself. I'm still not there. But what I can say is that losing yourself is going to lose the whole process. And it's so important for women to be able to focus on themselves. And I'm not meaning like take care of yourself and groom yourself and just no. And this is self-love is so misunderstood, honestly. And I came to the point that I had to find self-love. I had to find it. I had to fight for it. I had to heal for me to be able to touch in within. And this is the feminine divinity energy that I'm talking about. That you reach the stage where you have the love for yourself before, even for your children. And it's not selfish to do that. You need to be okay. You need to attend to yourself. You need to understand yourself. You need to look in the mirror and see what you want your daughters to be or what you want your kids to be. You want to look there and be so freaking proud of who you are. And we have all of that inside us. It's just that we forget. And I had an amazing meditation session the other day, and the word was remember. Remember what do we have inside us. Remember that energy that creates. We are divine energy that we give life. We are so powerful as women. And I want every woman to just remember who she is. Don't you ever forget. And don't make it light. Don't take it light. Because We have every single bit of strength to do it throughout any challenge we are faced. And maybe those challenges that I went through were like the credentials that I had to go through for me to pass on this message and for people to say, oh, yeah, but she survived this. So she can tell us this. We can listen to her. So I'll take that. I'll take it as another credential that I had to go through because I was able to tap within this energy and it feels amazing. Amazing.
Natalia, I know one of my greatest challenges is in allowing my story that can be interpreted by somebody else as motivational or inspiring, but I struggle with being vulnerable in public. I really struggle with the idea of, in sharing my story, I want it to inspire you. I want you to hear the story and feel like if she could do it, I can do it. But at the same time, I struggle with receiving words that sound like pity, words that sound like almost like we're sorry that you're not okay. And I struggle with accepting help and accepting words of comfort from others. Although I spend my time doing what I do and trying to encourage everyone to be okay with not being okay. In listening to everything that you've told us, how do you allow your vulnerability to tell the story, but also not to let your ego get wounded because you are being so vulnerable?
Actually, my story is nothing compared to yours, Maria.
I'm going to
I'm
stop
like
you
you
because I'm happy you said this, because this comparison, I think
because
I hear this so much from so many people. We compare our challenges with the challenges of somebody else.
no,
And we can't, because everything is so relative. I'm listening to you thinking, my life has been like nothing in comparison to what you're sharing with us today. And for you to tell me, Maria, what you've gone through is nothing compared to me, makes me feel like how can we do that? How do we continue to do that? And I'm going to go back to, how do you allow your story to show your vulnerability without you feeling attached to vulnerability as a weakness?
because vulnerability, you need to believe that vulnerability is not a weakness, because you need to believe that we are humans and we have our feelings and our emotions, and we need to allow every feeling and emotion to show. Otherwise, it becomes a show of people coming and telling a story, and it's not that. It's not that. I From my experiences, I came to understand every single bit of drama and suffering it happened in my life. I know why it happened and what did it prepare me for. And this is what life is. It's about a game of duality all the time, duality. And the other day, I woke up and I was so angry, and it's like I needed to find the term that opposes anger. So what would you replace anger with? And I couldn't find it. It's like nothing made sense. For anger, peace? No. So for me, anger ended up being a process that needs self-forgiveness. Because if you're angry at something, it's because something that you did not want to happen happened to you. And it's because we've allowed that thing to happen to us. It's when you take responsibility and you step up for everything that happens to us, and you step up and you accept it. It's just, oh my God, I'm having goosebumps. It's just, you accept it, you embrace it, and you cherish it. It's for you. It's for your members of your family, it's for members of your community, that you've accepted this experience, for you to share a message, for you to come up with something else in return. And that's why God chooses their strong people for these challenges. Whatever challenge it is, whatever version it is, we are strong because we can take strong.
I'm listening to your story, and I'm thinking, why? Like, there are so many people, so many stories to share, and so many stories to tell, and we are still struggling with the same thing again and again. And it's what you talked about. It's how we identify ourselves. It's what we're wearing. It's what we think we feel like based on what we look like on the outside. Raising teenage daughters, I know for me is, and teenage sons, I think it doesn't matter what gender of children that we have. I think the responsibility that we have raising them is so intense and can become really, really overwhelming. And listening to you tell the story of your life, and me reflecting on my life as you tell your story, I think, how did we get here? What kind of, what kind of preparation did we have to get here, other than just unskillfully getting through every challenge and trying to get through, and as you said, accepting? What are some of your, when you think of your children and the journey that they have ahead of them, what are some of your, words of, if you need any help, just remember these things, what would they be?
It came to my mind for my daughters. I wrote a message on Instagram on my daughter's birthday last January. And it was a message from me to her on how proud I am. And sometimes we don't tell them of every single thing that we're proud of. And then I wrote something and I asked her to promise me that she needs to always remember that little girl that lives inside her. And she needs to always remember the innocence of that girl. She needs to remember the wisdom that she carries within her. And she needs to glow as love and as light. And every bit of a stardust that we can create in this world has its own light. And just to love themselves. And I'll make my best for them to love themselves in the most amazing way.
And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Getting a teenager to find love for themselves and be able to love themselves in a time when it's really hard for them to accept who they are, because there's so much peer pressure to be something else or somebody else. Natalia, I could just talk to you forever. You're just incredibly inspiring. And I think what strikes me the most is how, again, I'm going to say it, it's just how authentic you are in how you talk about life and how you are so willing to share. I know that being in the region, I've lived here for many, many years, and I know that in this part of the world, it's very important to be seen in a certain way, and it's very important to carry ourselves in a certain way, because vulnerability is almost seen as a weakness. And it's only now recently that we're starting to hear more stories and seeing people being more open. I think this is the blessing that we have from the youth. They're really pushing us to be more authentic. They're pushing us to tell genuine stories. They're tired of the masks that we play, and they're tired of not being able to really experience in public what is going on. So I very, very, very much appreciate you being here today with us. And that brings us to the end of an incredible conversation. Today we met with Natalia, who is here in Dubai. We are Zooming. It is still the COVID pandemic. And although we hope that we could be connecting in person, we are connecting on Zoom today.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was a pleasure to reconnect again and keep doing what you're doing and inspiring so many.
Thank you, Natalia. See you next week, everybody.
Hi, what you feel inside?